Welcome. Recap episode. Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, here to talk about the last 20 episodes briefly, in case you missed. I just hear from listeners that they don't necessarily, some people listen to all of them, but some people don't. And they look at the title and they think that sounds interesting. So this is just an opportunity to hear, in case you missed it, or in case you're just joining in. This is a little bit of a short comment about each of the last 20 or so episodes. This is episode 240. So I start with 219 and go up to 238. And those have been released and responded to. So I kind of have some idea of the receptivity of the listenership. So thanks, sponsors. First, Tops, that got the majority of the coverage. I'm going to do some catch up with Panini and Upper Deck, as well as Huggins and Scott, Heritage Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, as well as Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. But the big news in the last month was Topps Project 2020. So you can see several of the episodes were about that. But okay, that's sponsors. Starting with episode 219. That was the episode with Buck. I saw Buck at the show last weekend, and he was in a good mood, I think, because he has sold his property tax business. He's still busy, active, and enjoying the hobby. But it's a tough time to be a business owner sometimes. But we talked even at the show there in response to the episode, if somebody on your block, if a house on your block sells for more money, and it seems like an anomaly. But then a second one sells on the block, and then that's another anomaly. It's way lower or way higher than what it should be. But when there's three, sometimes there's a pattern developing. That's what's happening in our industry. We used to throw out oddball pricing situations that were outliers, but you get several outliers, they're no longer outliers. And so there's been a run on certain players, whether you call it market manipulation or whatever, but there's a pattern developing. It's pretty obvious and pretty well accepted. And that's what property taxes wind up being done as well. 219A was the short weekend episode that was just fear, false evidence appearing real, but not all fear is irrational. The fear of missing out is a real thing, but I pointed out that the fear of embarrassment is sometimes even more powerful. Both of those factor into motivations within the hobby, within the card collecting public. 219B was the episode about the Topps Project 2020. I really kind of dug into it, and I, as I've said, I kind of missed the boat on that. I wasn't an early adopter, even with Roberto Clemente in there. I think it's been well executed, and they didn't overhype it in the beginning. And so now the people that had faith in it at the beginning are being very, very rewarded. As the program goes on and you see the production fluctuate, we'll see how that goes. 220 was the recap. Don't recap recaps. 221 was a tribute to Barry Halper. He's an amazing guy. He had a fabulous collection. Was a very warm guy, at least warm to me. And the other thing he did that comes up in one of the later episodes is that he really was thoughtful to his heirs. He had a very valuable and very far-reaching and deep collection. And he not only sold, but he also gave away, donated a large amount of his stuff so that his widow and son were not burdened with a whole bunch of stuff they didn't know what it was. They kind of did, and Barry took care of most of that. Hats off to him. Again, a real gentleman in the hobby and a good friend to me. Jim Bouton, 222 with Rich. Rich wanted to do that. Again, I think it's interesting to talk about these players that have cards. They're good players, but they're sometimes even more important with a celebrity status that's based on some additional aspect of how they use that celebrity and the ability to pitch. So Jim Bouton, changed the game of baseball with his Ball 4 book. 223 was the faux sponsor episode about FCG, the front and center grading. And the rhetorical question is, perhaps that's all that really matters. If it's a pleasing front and the card is well centered and you hold it up at arm's length and it looks great, maybe that's all you need. 224 was the show promoters beware with Rich. A lot of that has, try to do timeless episodes, but that some of that is probably blown over. There has been a successful show held in Dallas, actually said Plano or Allen. But Rich still has, the jury's still out about whether Rich is a very charitable show twice a year can go on, because they do not have the option to double the size of the room, which Kyle did, and make it very spacious. So hopefully that'll work out. It's a good cause. 224A was my editorial statement that the hobby is not a balloon. It's aspirational. It's my hope that it's not a balloon, because it's very full if it is a balloon. And it's tricky to let out air out of a balloon when you have a whole bunch of people holding on to the neck of the balloon. 224B was the disposable culture. So much of card collecting and collecting any kind of ephemera or things that don't have intrinsic value is, in the old days, was based on the fact that they weren't intended to be saved forever. But again, disposable culture, that factors in. The cards have no value other than when collectors say, I want to pay for it. 225 was Tim Shepler, Big Shep, a big personality. Enjoyed discussing about the cards and just the involvement he has in the industry and social media. So that was good. I look forward to having some more visits with Tim in the future. 226 was the Project 2020, the one I did with John Newman. And I brought John Newman into it because I noticed, again, one of the excellent podcasts out there. He's chosen in his main podcast, Sport Card Nation, to not have a time limit. It's allowed him to do some things that I could do, but I've chosen not to do. For example, he is interviewing a bunch of the artists in the Project 2020 for Topps, and he's just having a great time doing that. He really enjoys drawing out from them there. So I'm not duplicating that, but I just thought I'd bring John on and we talk about that. So go to Sports Card Nation to pick up on. Eventually he may have a bunch of your favorite artists from the Project 2020. 227 was getting Paul Worth and Eric Norton, the original Fat Packs, back together. They have obvious chemistry, and it just points out that I don't know that podcasting is a team sport, but I'm, to have somebody on and to go back and forth with them, especially a couple guys that are very engaging like that. That was fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And Fat Packs is missed. 228 was the Todd Westover origin story. I may have said this before, but one of the most difficult positions I had in hiring within my company from the very earliest days was people that could sell ads, because we had some unusual ad restrictions and policies for what we'd accept. And to find somebody like Todd who had the passion and integrity and hard work and was really driven to do a great job, that was very positive. Reconnecting with Todd was fun. 229 was the mortality issue. I will definitely come back to this. I don't know that I'm going to do it every year, but 6 weeks ago, people would say, do you know anybody that has COVID or anybody that's died from it? And the answer for a lot of people was no, but now the answer is yes. I do know people that have had it for sure. And I know some people that have died. So it's a real thing. 229A was the Project 2020 player trivia, just a little fun weekend episode. Again, not Rich Klein level trivia, but trivia that hopefully you enjoyed. A couple days later, I gave you the answers, so I didn't keep you waiting too long. 229B was the Project 2020 Next 20. I don't know that they're going to do this more frequently. I can't imagine that it's a one-off. Surely in fact, the other companies will do something like that where they do artist renditions of classic cards. And I think that'll be fun. I'm very good. And that's the episode where I kind of brought up there's a book titled by this, but co-opetition, where you can cooperate and compete when you're in that same space. If these card companies got together and for the good of the hobby were able to help each other with the various rights that they have and revenue share, wow, that'd be really cool. 230 was the 67 Topps baseball issue. I do get feedback that people like the set reviews. They like Rich, and 67 is kind of in Rich's wheelhouse. So that was actually a requested review with some aspects to deal with, and we did. 230A, as I said, was the trivia answers. 231, Christina Thorson, House of Jordans. Not the first woman, not the second, not the third. I think the fourth. My mom was first. I think Emily Kless was second. Angela Loeffler was third, I think. And so Christina's fourth, and held her own and enjoyed the back and forth with her role as being the rose between thorns in the House of Jordans podcast and her Christina's Corner. A good interviewer. Really enjoyed visiting with her, and I actually will visit with her, with Chris, coming up. 232 was the origin story of John Clemens, longtime announcer, a lifetime of great stories. I think most of them are baseball, but I'll have him back again as well. 233 was George Brett with Tim Shepler. I promised Kevin Hake I will do another Brett episode, and I've got one good story I saved for Kevin. So if you like George Brett and you like that episode, Tim did an excellent job, and I'll come back to George Brett. I think he's worth more than 15 minutes. 234 and 238 were the two episodes with Grant Sandground, and Grant's good friend, longtime cog in Beckett Publications. Really a lot of excellent price guide work. So excellent that Upper Deck was very interested in him and hired him 12 years ago now. And so he's doing great as their product development guy, and just an extremely creative and bright guy, and just was great to have him. The two episodes there in some of the podcast apps are the title may be flipped with the description, because I actually did those at the same time, and they're different episodes, but the titles and the audio file may have gotten flipped. 234A was the new money. I keep hearing talk about new money as if that's bad. Money is money. If there is new money, let's help the new money stay long enough to be old money. And that's good for everybody. 234B was the card show Masked Robbery, being a little bit flippant, that just thinking about what's going on at these shows. People are going to be walking in with masks. There's a lot of money there. Strange things could happen. Actually, the strange thing that happened at the card show that was that exact weekend was I had my most socially distanced experience show of all time. I had very little people contact. And so I love cards, but I like people too. And it was like being in a huge room, and there were a lot of people there, but they were really spread out. And so I just kind of camped out, put my head down, and I'm sure I did not get the disease because I did not have much people contact. I had a lot of card contact. 235 was the then and now with Paul and Eric on the Fat Packs. And again, Fat Packs now is I think been sort of transformed into Beckett Live Presents that Eric is doing. Paul is doing his thing as a breaker in a card shop in Waxahachie. 236 was Dan Hitt's origin story. I've known Dan for 40 years now. One of the very first guys I knew when I had an interest in a card shop. He was the young teenager that came in and helped, and again, high integrity, great work ethic, a terrific guy. So thanks, Dan, for all your contributions over the years. He was just, real strength in football, really allowed, well done, Dan. And we wish you the best in your new career. 237 was the Jackie Robinson tribute with John Newman. Wanted to do it kind of on the Juneteenth week. But on the other hand, I'd already done a Jackie Robinson episode, but John's passion and, if anybody's worth a second episode, and in the times we're living in, we need to, in America, we've got to get our act together better. And it's tricky, but I hope people will persevere to make America a great place for everybody. So, and there's no rules. I'm actually the boss of this podcast. And if I want to do 2 Jackie Robinson episodes, I can. And I enjoyed it. John, again, was a lot of fun to work with. And then 238, as I said, was the other Grant Sandgren. And then I did a 238A, which was something that came up in a conversation with Jordan Hagedorn, who represents kind of the Young Turks. And we were just going back and forth on the fact that football and basketball, for the same equivalent product or the same equivalent at scarcity, the basketball is way more expensive than the football. And that you can't just blame it on Michael Jordan, but some of these Michael Jordan prices are equal to a whole set of scarce inserts from the other sport where you've got all these great quarterbacks and running backs and icons of football. And so as what has been happening lately is that people notice these things, and there's some sharp people with enough money to move the needle to say, hey, this looks undervalued. I'm going to go to that. So that was an enjoyable conversation with Jordan. Check out the episode if you like. Contact me at drjamesbeckett@gmail.com. If you've got a question or a suggestion for a future episode, and you can send me an audio clip or you can send me just an email. But I'm enjoying doing this, and I'm not running out of ideas, but I'm also enjoying responding to questions. So thanks, everybody. Be back again tomorrow with another episode that's a real episode about new stuff.